Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 3. Yamaraj instructs his messengers. And this is the Srimad Bhagavatam, translated with commentaries by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So, the Yamadutas were prevented from taking a sinful person to the court of Yamaraj. And the Vishnudutas interceded because the person had chanted the holy names of the Lord. More or less unknowingly. They weren't, it was Ajamil. He wasn't trying to counteract his sinful activities by chanting. So it was considered that his chanting was pure. He had named his son Narayana. And the Vishnudutas the Yamadutas are confused about this. So they're going back to their Lord and Master, Yamaraj, and they're going to be inquiring what this was, because they'd never seen this before. So this is the little summary here before the chapter, and it gives us an idea of what's going to be discussed. As related in this chapter, the Yamadutas approached Yamaraj, who very exhaustively explained Bhagavatam, the religious principle of devotional service. Yamaraj thus satisfied the Yamadutas, who had been very disappointed. Yamaraj said, although Ajamil was calling for his son, he chanted the holy name of the Lord Narayana, and simply by a glimpse of the chanting of the holy name, he immediately achieved the association of Lord Vishnu's order carriers, who saved him from your attempt to arrest him. This is quite all right. It is a fact that even a chronically sinful person who chants the holy name of the Lord, although not completely without offenses, does not take another material birth. By chanting the holy name of the Lord, Ajamil had met 4 order carriers of Lord Vishnu. They were very beautiful and had quickly come to rescue him. Yamaraj now described them. The Vishnudutas are all pure devotees of the Lord, the Supreme Person in regard to the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of this cosmic manifestation. Neither King Indra, Varuna, Shiva, Brahma, the 7 rishis, nor myself can understand the transcendental activities of the Supreme Lord, who is self-sufficient and beyond the reach of the material senses. With material senses, no one can attain enlightenment about him. The Lord, the master of the illusory energy, possesses transcendental qualities for the good fortune of everyone, and his devotees are also qualified in that way. The devotees concerned only with rescuing the fallen souls from this material world apparently take birth in different places in the material world just to save the conditioned souls. If one is somewhat interested in spiritual life, the devotees of the Lord protect him in so many ways. Yamaraj continued, the essence of Sanatan Dharma, or eternal religion, is extremely confidential. No one but the Lord himself can deliver that confidential religious system to human society. It's by the mercy of the Lord that the transcendental system of religion can be understood by his pure devotees, specifically by the 12 Mahajans. Lord Brahma, Narada Muni, Lord Shiva, the Kumaras, Kapila, Manu, Prahlad, Janaka, Bhishma, Bali, Sukadeva Goswami, and me. Other learned scholars, headed by Jamini, are almost always covered by illusory energy, and therefore they are more or less attracted by flowery language of the three Vedas, namely Rig, Yajur, and Sama, which are called Trayi. Instead of becoming pure devotees, people captivated by flowery words of these three Vedas are interested in the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. They cannot understand the glories of chanting the holy name of the Lord. Intelligent persons, however, take to the devotional service of the Lord. When they chant the holy name of the Lord without offenses, they are no longer subject to my rulings. If by chance they commit some sinful act, they're protected by the holy name of the Lord, because that is where their interest lies. The four weapons of the Lord, especially the club and Sudarshan chakra, always protect the devotees. One who chants, hears, or remembers the holy name of the Lord without duplicity, or who prays or offers obeisances to the Lord, becomes perfect, whereas even a learned person may be called to hell if he is bereft of devotional service. After Yamaraj thus described the glories of the Lord and his devotees, Sukadeva Goswami further explained the potency of chanting the holy name and the futility of performing Vedic ritualistic ceremonies and pious activities for atonement. Text 1. King Parikshit said, O my Lord, O Sukadeva Goswami, Yamaraj is the controller of all living entities in terms of their religious and irreligious activities, but his order had been foiled. When the servants, the Yamadutas, informed him of their defeat by the Vishnudutas, who had stopped them from arresting Ajamil, what did he reply? So we like to hear these conversations, and this is what is going on in the Bhagavatam. These conversations are taking place, and they're conversations about conversations, about conversations, about conversations. And they're passed down in this way, these messages of Godhead, how the same topic was discussed here, and then the same topic was discussed there, in these different situations. You can see the absolute nature of these topics, and they have been discussed at different times and different places in the assembly of different devotees. And they're the pure topics of devotional service, and they don't change, and they're ever fresh. And it's always interesting to hear who is discussing these topics at what time and under what circumstances. So here, there's a conversation between Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit, and they're discussing the topics of the super excellence of devotional service, and especially the potency of the holy names of the Lord. And Maharaj Parikshit is very interested to hear, this is what he's interested in, and now he wants to hear what Yamaraj replied to his servants concerning the same topic. Prabhupada's commentary, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that although the statements of the Yamadutas were fully upheld by Vedic principles, the statements of the Vishnudutas are triumphant, and this was confirmed by Yamaraj himself. So this is, Yamaraj is one of the Mahajans. He's one of those persons who can understand the most confidential knowledge concerning the super excellence of devotional service. Text 2. O great sage, never before has it been heard anywhere that an order from Yamaraj has been baffled. Therefore I think that people will have doubts about this, that no one but you can eradicate. Since that is my firm conviction, kindly explain the reasons for these events. Text 3. Sukadeva Goswami replied, My dear king, when the order carriers of Yamaraj were baffled and defeated by the order carriers of Vishnu, they approached their master, the controller of Samyani Puri, the master of sinful persons, to tell him of the incident. Text 4. The Yamadutas said, "Our dear Lord, how many controllers or rulers are there in the material world? How many causes are responsible for manifesting the various results of activities performed under the three modes of material nature, Sattvagun, Rajagun, and Tamagun?" So up to this point they had thought that Yamaraj was the supreme personality, and within the three modes of material nature, he certainly is. He has jurisdiction over every living entity, Yamaraj, and can hold them accountable for their sinful activities. So the Yamadutas are wondering, are there other controllers within this material world? Besides yourself, we thought you were the topmost. We're confused because we were not allowed to carry out your order by some superior intervention. Prabhupada's commentary. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that the Yamadutas, the order carriers of Yamaraj, were so disappointed that they asked their master, almost in anger, great anger, whether there were many masters other than him. Furthermore, because the Yamadutas had been defeated and their master could not protect them, they were inclined to say that there was no need to serve such a master. If a servant cannot carry out the orders of his master without being defeated, what's the use of serving such a powerless master? Yeah, so that everyone wants to serve the greatest master. The Yamadutas thought that they were serving the greatest master, Yamaraj. And when they were prevented by superior intervention, then they began to lose interest in serving Yamaraj. What are we serving you for? Your orders can't be carried out. We thought you were the greatest master to serve. Yeah, there's a nice story about the boy who wanted to serve the greatest master. He had that desire. He saw that everyone was serving. So he thought, well, let me serve the greatest. I have to serve. It's my nature. So who's the greatest to serve? He was living in a village, very simple, more or less uneducated, but sincere. And he looked around him. He said, let me start right now. I have to serve all the time. Let me see. And he saw a laborer who was had good qualities. He was an artisan, craftsman. He had good qualities. He was kind, he was gentle, he was fair, he was honest, he was cheerful. And so he thought, well, these are good qualities. Let me become his student. Let me become his apprentice. I'll learn his skill, and I'll learn from him. I serve him as the greatest master. Then when I look around me, this is who I see. And so he began to serve that person. And eventually one day, the governor came through the province, and he was attended by quite an entourage of diplomats and statesmen, and there were people tending the horses and other people carrying the tents and whatever. It was quite an entourage passing through the village. He was on tour and probably collecting taxes. And he saw everyone offering things to him and bowing down, Your Majesty. He saw his carpenter, or the man he was serving, his artisan, bow down to this governor. And he thought, well, I want to serve the greatest master. And he's now offering his obeisances and respects, bowing down in humility and humble submission to the governor. The governor must be greater than him. So let me go serve the governor. I want to serve the greatest master. And he was accepted by the governor for service. And he began to travel with him. And when they returned to the governor's palace, he stayed with the governor there. And he was serving nicely like that. And then at one point, the king came for a visit. And he saw the governor bow down to the king. And the king was commanding all kinds of respect from everywhere. Oh my goodness, the king. So the young man thought, well, I'm serving the governor, and the governor is bowing down to the king. I want to serve the greatest master. Let me be accepted into the king's service. And in this way, he was accepted into the service of the king, returned to the king's palace with him, and he was serving there, whatever capacity he was serving. Cooking, washing floors, who knows what he was doing, but he was serving the king. And then one day he saw not just one day, but fairly regularly, the king would get on his horse, and all by himself he would ride off into the forest, and he would be gone for several hours, and then he would come back. The young man was very curious. He wanted to know where the king was going. So secretly he followed him, and he saw that the king got deep into the forest. There was a little cottage, and the king would get off his horse and go into the little hut, the little cottage. And so the young man followed, and he was able to peek through. There was some crack in the wall or through the window. He was able to peek in. And he saw the king bow down with his helmet and everything, all his weapons and his helmet and his jeweled necklaces and everything, and bow down to a very unassuming figure, a man just wearing a little loincloth, very thin, and living very simply. The man had really nothing in the cottage. He had an extra set of clothes, little loincloth hanging on a line, and he had a couple of little eating utensils, and that was it. There was nothing there. A little cot where he was lying down, and that was it. And he saw the king sit there for quite a long time, and he was listening to what this very simple hermit in the forest had to say. And then the king left. So the young man thought, look, I want to serve the greatest person. I was serving the artisan in the village, and he bowed down to the governor, so I served the governor. Then the governor bowed down to the king, so then I said, well, let me go serve the king. Now the king is bowing down to the sage in the forest. I want to serve the greatest person. I have to go approach the sage. And then the sage was able to tell him, instruct him, who the greatest master really is, Krishna. So that just reminded me of that nice story. It illustrates a point, a lot of points, that we're all servants and that we should try to serve the greatest master. And Krishna will make the arrangements. We go from where we're at. We don't jump over. We go from where we are. We look around us and see who is giving who has the good qualities. And let me take instruction from them. Let me make some progress. And in this way, always remain open so that the spiritual master, we can qualify to take instruction from the bona fide spiritual master, who will then give us Krishna, devotional service. So, we make some gradual progress like that. So the Prabhupada's commentary. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that the Yamadutas, the order carriers, oh yes, okay, we read the purport, that the Yamadutas were questioning whether their master was the greatest master. He says here that they were actually angry. Anger is a sign of attachment. They were attached to serving the greatest master. So now they're become a little angry because their attachment has been frustrated. Text 5. If in this universe there are many rulers and justices who disagree about punishment and reward, their contradictory actions will neutralize each other. No one will be punished or rewarded. Otherwise, if their contradictory acts fail to neutralize each other, everyone will have both punishment and reward. So the Yamadutas are actually, they're intelligent. I'm still wondering why they're so ugly and scary looking, unless it's just needed for, like a uniform needed for their service. But they're actually quite intelligent, and they're asking very good questions. They're scrutinizing. So they're saying that if there are many rulers and different justices who disagree about punishment and reward, then no one will be punished or rewarded. And the justices will simply be arguing amongst themselves, and the servants of the justices will simply be arguing amongst themselves. And if their contradictory acts do not neutralize each other, then everyone will be both punished and rewarded. So how can the smooth running of the material universe go on? It can only be one set of absolute laws and rules. So what's going on here, they're asking. Prabhupada's commentary. Because the Yamadutas had been unsuccessful in carrying out the order of Yamaraj, they doubted whether Yamaraj actually had the power to punish the sinful. Although they had gone to arrest the Jamil, following Yamaraj's order, they found themselves unsuccessful because of the order of some higher authority. Therefore, they were unsure of whether there were many authorities or only one. If there were many authorities who gave different judgments, which could be contradictory, a person might be wrongly punished or wrongly rewarded, or he might be neither punished nor rewarded. According to our experience in the material world, a person punished in one court may appeal to another. Thus, the same man may be either punished or rewarded according to different judgments. However, in the law of nature or the court of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there cannot be such contradictory judgments. The judges and their judgments must be perfect and free from contradictions. And that's interesting. The man-made courts, the man-made laws, a punishment can be nullified by appealing to a higher court. So they come down with some, or if someone is found not guilty, they can be tried again in a different way until someone tries to prove that they deserve punishment. So the material laws in courts, they're not very efficient and they're subject to being manipulated. There may be a law one day and then they may nullify the law itself the next day. So someone who broke the law may be imprisoned or fined or punished, but then they rescind the law, they take it back. No, this isn't a good law, and so they were punished for nothing, according to man-made laws. So they're not very efficient. But the laws within the Lord's creation, the supernatural laws, they have to be absolute. They can't be, when the decision is made, that's it, it's final. None of this, I'll appeal to a higher court kind of thing. It can't go on. An innocent person cannot be punished, and a sinful person cannot be allowed to go unpunished. This is the absolute nature of the transcendental court system. So the Yamadutas are confused now. It appeared to them that a sinful person went unpunished, and they're having all kinds of doubts about the system itself and the position of Yamaraj. So they'll need to be enlightened as to what's really going on. So Yes, they cannot be contradictory judgments. The judges and their judgments must be perfect and free from contradictions. Actually, the position of Yamaraj was very awkward in the case of Ajamil, because the Yamadutas were right in attempting to arrest Ajamil, but the Vishnudutas had baffled them. Although Yamaraj, under these circumstances, was accused by both the Vishnudutas and the Yamadutas, he is perfect in administering justice because he is empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he will explain what his real position is and how everyone is controlled by the Supreme Controller, the Personality of Godhead. Yeah, Yamaraj was getting it from both ends. He was getting it from the Vaishnavas were criticizing him, and now the Yamadutas were upset with him. So we'll see how this is interesting. Yamaraj gets the mercy. Yamaraj gets the mercy. Yes. Text 6. He's trying to do his service and he gets the mercy. The Yamadutas continued. Since there are many different karmis or workers, there may be different judges or rulers to give them justice. But just as one central emperor controls different departmental rulers, there must be one supreme controller to guide all the judges. In governmental management, there may be departmental officials to give justice to different persons, but the law must be one, and that central law must control everyone. The Yamadutas could not imagine that two judges would give two different verdicts in the same case, and therefore they wanted to know who the central judge is. The Yamadutas were certain that Ajamil was a most sinful man, but although Yamaraj wanted to punish him, the Vishnudutas excused him. This was a puzzling situation that the Yamadutas wanted Yamaraj to clarify. Text 7. The Supreme Judge must be one, not many. It was our understanding that you are the Supreme Judge, that you have jurisdiction even over the demigods. Our impression was that you're the master of all living entities, the supreme authority who discriminates between the pious and impious activities of all human beings. Text 8. But now we see that the punishment ordained under your authority is no longer effective, since your order has been transgressed by 4 wonderful and perfect persons. Prabhupada's purport. The Yamadutas had been under the impression that Yamaraj was the only person in charge of administering justice. They were fully confident that no one could counteract his judgments, but now, to their surprise, his order had been violated by the 4 wonderful persons from Siddhaloka. This is the devotional service. It cannot be understood, the power, the potency of devotional service cannot be understood in terms of rules, regulations, laws, because they're all bound, pretty much, by the 3 modes of material nature, whereas devotional service is as good as Krishna himself, and he's not, doesn't come under the jurisdiction of the 3 modes of material nature. They can't touch him, they have no influence on him. So, he can do anything. And when someone comes in contact, takes shelter of devotional service, even someone like Ajamil, simply by a glimpse of the holy name, then they also are no longer under the jurisdiction of the 3 modes of material nature. And this was what the Yamadutas were going to be enlightened. They were going to begin to understand how this works. Text 9. We were bringing the most sinful Ajamil toward the hellish planets following your order. when those beautiful persons from Siddhaloka forcibly cut the knots of the ropes with which we were arresting him. Prabhupada's commentary. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti the ropes with which they were arresting him. There were 3 Yamadutas, and they were representative of body, mind, and words. So it's interesting, they had ropes, each one had a rope. Doesn't say how many ropes they had, but each one, the body, they were dragging him. The body, the Yamaduta, who was representative of the body, the Yamaduta is representative of the mind, and the Yamaduta is representative of words. They were dragging him with ropes. And the Vishnudutas cut those ropes, which means they broke the attachments. The material attachment of body, mind, and words was severed by the Vishnudutas to allow Ajamil, to make the proper attachment with body, mind, and words to Vishnu. This is the spiritual master. He's engaging the disciples in such a way that their attachments through their body, their mind, and their words, their attachments to the material activities in that way are severed, and the real attachment, body, mind, and words, in service to Krishna, is established. So this was the intervention of the Vishnudutas that the Yamadutas witnessed. They had him. He was firmly attached, body, minds, and words, to the material activity, the material plane. Because of his attachment, they were able to drag him. But the Vishnudutas stopped it. He was no longer attached, body, mind, and words, to material plane. Text 10. As soon as the sinful Ajamil uttered the name Narayana, these 4 beautiful men immediately arrived and reassured him, saying, "Do not fear, do not fear. We wish to know about them from your lordship. If you think we're able to understand them, kindly describe who they are." So the Yamadutas were attracted to the Vishnudutas. They're beautiful, and they're powerful, and they overpowered us. There's nothing we could do. Who are they? So they're attracted also. Everyone is attracted to the Vaishnava. Because Krishna is all attractive, the Vaishnava is pure representative. The Vaishnava is also all attractive. Prabhupada's commentary. The order carriers of Yamaraj, being very much aggrieved because of their defeat by the 4 Vishnudutas, wanted to bring them before Yamaraj and, if possible, punish them. Oh my. Otherwise, they desired to commit suicide. Oh, before pursuing either course, however, they wanted to know about the Vishnudutas from Yamaraj, who is also omniscient. Oh my goodness. They were so angry. They were so angry. They were angry because they were defeated. They didn't want to be defeated. Their master gave them the order, they tried to carry it out, and these Vishnudutas interceded, and they couldn't do it, and then they became angry. They wanted to commit suicide. They wanted to kill themselves. They were so angry and frustrated. Wow. But before, and they wanted to try to bring the Vishnudutas before Yamaraj and have them punish him. It's like children are like that with their parents. They try to, there's some fight amongst the siblings, and they try to bring the other one to the parent. You punish him. So they very immature like that, the Yamadutas. Got that. Bring those Vishnudutas before Yamaraj and have him punish them. And if that couldn't happen, they were so, it was like a tantrum or something here. They're having a tantrum. Otherwise, they were going to commit suicide. Wow, having a tantrum. But before either of those things, they wanted to find out what's the story with these Vishnudutas. It says Yamaraj is also omniscient, knows everything. So they had that faith in Yamaraj that he would know. Text 11. Srila Sukadeva Goswami said, thus, having been questioned, Lord Yamaraj, the supreme controller of the living entities, was very pleased with his order carriers because of hearing from them the holy name of Narayana. He remembered the lotus feet of the Lord and began to reply. Wow, now the Yamadutas are doing Agyata Sukriti. The Yamadutas are calling out, Lord Narayana. Who is this Narayana? Who is the Vishnudutas? Who is this Narayana? He called out Narayana and he was said. So this put Yamaraj into ecstasy. He's hearing his servants, his Yamadutas, saying the name of the Lord. It's like, it's opening up the possibility of talking and glorifying the Lord instead of just, business as usual. Oh, this sinful one, send him to Kumbhipaka. Oh, this sinful one, send him to, business as usual. Now this opportunity to discuss with his servants the glories of the Lord. This is very nice. Yamaraj is in ecstasy to hear them questioning him. So now Yamaraj is getting the mercy. Vishnudutas are getting the mercy. Yamaraj is getting the mercy. Text 12. Yamaraj said, my dear servants, you've accepted me as the supreme, but factually I'm not. Above me and above all the other demigods, including Indra and Chandra, is the one supreme master and controller. The partial manifestations of his personality are Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, who are in charge of the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of this universe. He is like the two threads that form the length and breadth of a woven cloth. The entire world is controlled by him, just as a bull is pulled by a rope in its nose. Wow. The world is controlled by him, just as a bull is controlled by a rope in its nose. If you've ever seen a bull, they can break through any kind of fencing, practically speaking, kick their way through concrete if they put their energy to it. They're very determined bull. They have so many raging hormones flowing through their bodies. They can be very uncontrollable, and that's like the material world. The modes are flowing here and there and everywhere. But here, said Krishna or Narayana is controlling the whole thing. Just like that bull, that raging bull. If there's a ring in his nose and a little rope put through it, is actually very tender and sensitive. The bull's nose is very tender and sensitive. So when there's a rope there, immediately he has to stop. He was so sensitive. Stop his raging and come under control of being guided by this rope in his nose. Prabhupada's commentary. The order carriers of Yamaraj suspected that there was a ruler even above Yamaraj. To eradicate their doubts, Yamaraj immediately replied, yes, there is one supreme controller above everything. Yamaraj is in charge of some of the moving living entities, namely the human beings, but the animals who also move are not under his control. Only human beings have consciousness of right and wrong, and among them, only those who perform sinful activities come under the control of Yamaraj. Therefore, although Yamaraj is a controller, he is only a departmental controller of a few living entities. There are other demigods who control many other departments, but above them all is one supreme controller, Krishna. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. The supreme controller is Krishna. Others who control their own departments in the affairs of the universe are insignificant in comparison to Krishna, the supreme controller. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Matak Parataram Nanyat Kinchirasti Dhananjaya. My dear Dhananjaya, Arjuna, no one is superior to me. Therefore Yamaraj immediately cleared away the doubts of his assistants, the Yamadutas, by confirming that there is a supreme controller above all others. Srila Madhvacharya explains that the words Om Protam, Otam Protam, refer to the cause of all causes. Krishna. Refer to the cause of all causes. Hare Krishna. Technical difficulties here. Hey. Go in there. All right. Can't see the clock, and so you have a 60-minute time limit here. There. Okay, I can see the clock. Srila Madhvacharya explains that the words Otam Protam refer to the cause of all causes. The Supreme Lord is both vertical and horizontal, so cosmic manifestation. This is confirmed by the following verse from the Canto Purāṇa. I'm going to skip that Sanskrit. But the idea is, as Prabhupada continues in the commentary, like the two threads, horizontal and vertical, of which a quilt is manufactured, Lord Vishnu is situated as the vertical and horizontal cause of the cosmic manifestation. It's interesting, vertical and horizontal cloth. Putting that in terms of the cosmic manifestation would be nice to get some further enlightenment on how that is. I mean, we can see, vertical and horizontal, that kind of sums it up for a piece of cloth, which is more or less in two dimensions, length and breadth, although the thickness of the cloth would determine, say, a third dimension, but how that comparison is being made. The Lord is both the length and the breadth. I mean, it completes, a piece of cloth is completed when there's length and breadth. And it's lots of little threads. It's composed of lots of little threads interwoven. Yeah, that's another little insight into that. It's a lot of different threads. By themselves, they're different strands, but when they're woven, and that the Lord Himself, what does it say? That the Lord Himself is all His energies woven, different types of energies woven, length and breadth. Okay. I'm sure there's more to that, but we'll go on. Text 13. Just as the driver of a bullock cart ties ropes through the nostrils of his bulls to control them, the Supreme Personality of Godhead binds all men through the ropes of His words in the Vedas, which set forth the names and activities of the distinct orders of human society, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra. In fear, the members of these orders all worship the Supreme Lord by offering Him presentations according to their respective activities. It's interesting. The driver of a bullock cart ties ropes through the nostrils of his bulls to control them. The Lord does this with men through the ropes of his words in the Vedas, which prescribe the activities and distinct orders of human society. And people follow these orders out of fear. In fear, they worship Supreme Lord, according to their activities. Not love, but fear and respect. So we're into rules for conduct within the material modes is governed by fear. Love is not possible without devotional service, which transcends all the prescriptions within the Vedas. We're going to probably go into that here. This was reminiscent of the conversation with Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Roy, when Ramananda Roy put forward that if one follows one's prescribed duties, then they perfect their life. And Lord Chaitanya rejected that as the highest understanding. Why? Because simply following rules and regulations is done out of fear of what will happen if I don't. Something bad will happen if I don't, which is true. But a higher principle is love of God, and that's only available through devotional service. And devotional service is available through the devotees, the Vaishnavas. So this is pastime of Ajamil is so incredible. It's such a fine, wonderful case. Everything comes out because of Ajamil. All the finer points come out. It even challenged the servants of Yamadutas to approach their master Yamaraj. Prabhupada's commentary. In this material world, everyone is conditioned, regardless of who he is. One may be a human being, a demigod, or an animal, a tree or plant, but everything is controlled by the laws of nature, and behind this natural control is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this is the cloth woven horizontal and vertical. This is confirmed by Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, Mayadhyakshena prakrite suyate sacharacharam. The material nature is working under my direction and producing all moving and non-moving beings. Thus, Krishna is behind the natural machine, which works under his control. Apart from other living entities, the living being in the human form of body is systematically controlled by Vedic injunctions in terms of the divisions of Varna and Ashram. A human being is expected to follow rules and regulations of Varna and Ashram. Otherwise, he cannot escape punishment by Yamaraj. The point is that every human being is expected to elevate himself to the position of a Brahmin, the most intelligent man, and then one must transcend that position to become a Vaishnava. This is the perfection of life. Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra can elevate themselves by worshipping the Lord according to their activities. Sve sve karmanyabhirata samsiddhim labhate nara. The divisions of Varna and Ashram are necessary to ensure the proper execution of duties and peaceful existence for everyone. But everyone is directed to worship the Supreme Lord, who's all-pervading. Yena sarvam idam tatam. Supreme Lord exists vertically and horizontally, otam protam. Therefore, if one follows the Vedic injunctions by worshipping the Supreme Lord according to one's ability, his life will be perfect. Okay. Thank you. This is this is the meaning of horizontal and vertical. The varnashram system is a fabric that runs through society. Okay? And everyone is on that, is acting more or less horizontally. But it's when they offer their service to the Lord, become a Brahmin and then Vaishnav, then it's vertical. So the Lord is horizontal and he's vertical. Horizontal means in that plane, which is more or less like two-dimensional, three modes of material nature, and following the varnas and ashrams as one progresses into the mode of goodness. But it's still on that horizontal plane of reward and punishment. When one gets out of that plane of being subject to reward and punishment and starts to take shelter of the devotional energy of the Lord, and it's not a matter of reward and punishment anymore. It's not a matter of pious or impious. It's a matter of engaging in a whole nother plane, which is now the vertical plane. And the Lord is the background of both. The Lord is both. He has both arrangements. Interesting. He's all-pervading. He exists vertically and horizontally. Wow. So this is not an ordinary fabric. Atak pumbir dijasrishta varnashram vigavasa svanutistasya dharmasya samsiddhi toshanam. O best among the twice-born, it's therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging his prescribed duties, dharma, according to caste divisions and orders of life, is to please the Lord Hari. The Varnashram institution offers the perfect process for making one eligible to return home back to Godhead, because the aim of every Varna and ashram is to please the Supreme Lord. It's the Lord's arrangement, and by surrendering to the Lord's arrangement, it's pleasing the Lord. So it makes one eligible for devotional service, because already accustomed to pleasing the Lord by one's activities. So it's a perfect arrangement. One who doesn't follow Varnashram Dharma and acts sinfully, then they have to go to Yamaraj to get some corrective measures, so they can at least follow the instructions that the Lord has given for peaceful material life. That's like a first step. You have to accept some authority. One can please the Lord under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master, and if one does so, his life is perfect. The Supreme Lord is worshipable, and everyone worships him directly or indirectly. Those who worship him directly get the results of liberation quickly, whereas the liberation of those who serve him indirectly is delayed. So directly means under the direction of his pure representative, and indirectly means going through a process of offering one's varnashram system, not necessarily with the keen desire to serve the Lord, but seeing the benefits of serving indirectly. The words Nama Bir Vachi are very important. In the Varnashram institution, there are different names: Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. The Vak, or Vedic injunctions, give directions for all these divisions. Everyone is expected to offer obeisances to the Supreme Lord and perform duties as indicated in the Vedas. This is the prescribed activities. in the Vedas. And the Brahmins are responsible for disseminating this knowledge. The Kshatriyas are responsible for seeing that it is carried out nicely. And the Vaishyas and Sudras make sure everyone has what they need to maintain themselves nicely. And the Sudras help everybody else. In this way, life goes on peacefully. Text 15. And this is Yamaraj explaining this to his Yamadutas. I, Yamaraj, Indra, the king of heaven, Nriti, Varuna, Chandra, the moon god, Agni, Lord Shiva, Pavana, Lord Brahma, Surya, the sun god, Vishvasu, the 8 Vasus, the Sadyas, the Maruts, the Rudras, the Siddhas, and Marichi, and the other great rishis engaged in maintaining departmental affairs of the universe, as well as the best of the demigods headed by Brihaspati, and the great sages headed by Bhrigu, are all certainly freed from the influence of the 2 base material modes of nature, namely passion and ignorance. Nevertheless, although we are in the mode of goodness, we cannot understand the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What then is to be said of others who, under illusion, merely speculate to know God? Well, serving the Lord, but no access to the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the pastimes, but engaged in his service, but no access. Because in the mode of goodness only. Serving the Lord in the mode of goodness. There's different ways to serve. There's serving the Lord in the mode of goodness by performing their duties. They're duty bound. They have great post, and they have a lot of amenities to go with it. A lot of sense gratification, a lot of facilities, a lot of power and opulence in the mode of goodness. Wow. And even they can't understand the activities of the personality of Godhead. And his sentence here is, what then is to be said of others who under illusion merely speculate to know God? Wow, he's really, Yamaraj is really relishing these topics. He's really glorifying the Lord here. So we have a purport. The men and other living entities within the cosmic manifestation are controlled by the 3 modes of nature. For the living entities controlled by the base qualities of nature, passion and ignorance, there's no possibility of understanding God. Even those in the mode of goodness, like the many demigods and great rishis described in these verses, cannot understand the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, one who is situated in the devotional service of the Lord is transcendental to all the material qualities. Therefore, the Lord personally says, no one can understand him but the bhaktas, who are transcendental to all material qualities. Bhakti mama bijanati. As stated by Bhishmadev to Maharaj Yudhisthira in Srimad Bhagavatam, O king, no one can know the plan of the Lord Sri Krishna. Even though great philosophers inquire exhaustively, they are bewildered. No one, therefore, can understand God by speculative knowledge. Indeed, by speculation, one will be bewildered, muyanti. This is also confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatatamapi siddhanam kaschin mam veti tatvataha. Among many thousands of men, one may endeavor for perfection. And even among the siddhas, those who have already become perfect, only one who adopts the process of bhakti, devotional service, can understand Krishna.